Assume you choose the US route. Here is exactly what you are about to experience. Step 1. Register as a money services business with FinCEN, the Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. This registration costs nothing and can be completed in days. It is also the opening of a federal file on your business that never closes. Step 2. Apply for money transmitter licenses in 48 states. Each application requires fingerprinting and criminal background checks for every beneficial owner at or above the 10% ownership threshold. You need documented net worth and posted surety bonds ranging from $25,000 per state to over $500,000 in states like California and New York. Your AML policies, cybersecurity policies, and business continuity plans must be submitted with each application. A staffing and state licensing firm to manage this process costs $200,000 to $400,000 before the actual license fees. Step 3. New York. If you want the 8 million New York customers, and by extension, you want institutional counterparties to treat you as legitimate, you need the BITE license. It is filed separately, reviewed separately, takes longer, costs more, and has a rejection rate that makes it statistically safer to assume you won't get it on the first attempt. Budget it as a standalone project within your licensing effort. Step 4. Ongoing compliance, which is the real cost. Once licensed, you file currency transaction reports for cash transactions above $10,000. You file suspicious activity reports when something looks wrong. You maintain KYC records on every user for 5 years. You conduct annual third-party AML audits. You undergo periodic state examinations. None of this is optional, and none of it is static. Regulators update their requirements, and your compliance program must update with them. Regulatory spend of 20% to 35% of operating costs is not an overestimate. For context, Binance's failure to build this infrastructure from the beginning, and the evidence that it willfully ignored red flags for years, resulted in a $4.3 billion fine in November 2023. That was the largest financial penalty ever imposed on a financial institution at the time it was handed down. There is a faster path, and it does not require inventing your regulatory framework from scratch. The cleanest move for a new entrant is to acquire a small, already licensed exchange in a favorable jurisdiction, one that comes with existing licenses, an existing compliance program, and existing banking relationships, and use that as the operational base from which you expand. You inherit everything the existing operator built. You pay a multiple of the business's current revenue, but you save 2 to 3 years of runway and several $million in legal fees. The precedent: in January 2025, MoonPay acquired Helio, a Solana-based crypto payment processor, for $175 million. MoonPay was not interested in building competing payment infrastructure from zero. They were interested in the licenses, the banking integrations, the technical stack, and the existing user relationships embedded in a live operating company. The acquisition fee included all of those things. At $175 million for a payments processor with an established footprint, that's a fraction of what Tier 3 US licensing costs at scale, and it came with a working business attached. If you're entering this space and you don't already have a regulatory footprint, the right question isn't how to build a license from scratch. The right question is who already has what you need and what it takes to buy them. Natural Adreed transition: leave blank. Here is how a crypto exchange makes money. In one sentence, you charge everyone who uses your parking lot, whether they find a space or not, whether they stay for 5 minutes or 5 hours, and regardless of what happens to them after they drive away. More precisely, exchanges charge a maker fee and a taker fee. The taker fee applies to the person placing a market order, a trade that immediately executes against existing liquidity. On most exchanges, this runs 0.1% to 0.25% of the trade value. The maker fee applies to someone placing a limit order that sits on the order book and adds liquidity. This runs 0% to 0.1%. Both sides of every completed trade pay. The exchange collects on the buy and on the sell. Start small. Your exchange does $5 million in daily trading volume. Blended average fee, 0.2%. That's $10,000 per day, or $3.65 million per year in gross revenue. Annual operating costs at that scale, a team of 10 to 12 people, legal and compliance retainers, server infrastructure, KYC provider subscriptions, customer support tools, run approximately $2.5 million. Net income, $1, $15 million per year. Payback on a $1.5 million initial investment, roughly 16 months. The math works. The question is whether you can get to $5 million in daily volume, and that question is not answered by any financial model. Scale it to institutional. Coinbase reported $1.2 trillion in total trading volume for 2024, approximately $3.3 billion per day, and generated $4 billion in transaction revenue that year. Implied average fee across all products, roughly 0.33%. Binance, running significantly higher volume with lower per trade fees, generated $16.8 billion in revenue in 2024, a 40% year-over-year increase. 90% of that revenue came from trading fees. The exchange that charges fractionally less per trade, but does 20 times the volume, prints more money. Both numbers are real. Both numbers came from companies that spent years at the Tier 1 and Tier 2 levels before they became the institutions they are now. One additional revenue line worth knowing: token listing fees. Projects looking to be listed on major exchanges pay for the privilege. Fees at top-tier exchanges are not publicly disclosed. At mid-tier exchanges, listing fees range from $50,000 to several million dollars per project. In a bull market cycle, when dozens of new projects launch every week and every one of them wants exchange visibility, this revenue line can be substantial. It is also entirely discretionary. It disappears when the market goes cold. In 2019, a 27-year-old named Sam Bankman-Fried co-founded FTX, a crypto derivatives exchange headquartered in the Bahamas. By 2021, FTX was valued at $32 billion. Bankman-Fried's personal net worth was estimated above $20 billion. He appeared on the cover of Forbes. He was a major political donor, reportedly to both parties. He was publicly committed to effective altruism, the philosophical framework that argues you should earn as much money as possible in order to give it all away to maximum impact charities. He gave extensive interviews about the moral obligations of the wealthy. In November 2022, FTX collapsed in approximately 72 hours. The mechanism Bankman-Fried had for years been routing customer deposits from FTX into Alameda Research, his personal trading firm. Customers believed their funds were held in segregated secure accounts. In reality, those funds were being used by Alameda to make leveraged bets, fund political donations, buy a $35 million Bahamas penthouse, and invest in other companies at Bankman-Fried's direction. When Alameda's positions went bad and counterparties demanded repayment, FTX didn't have the customer funds it owed because those funds had already been spent. The shortfall, at least $8 billion in customer money. The charges: 2 counts of wire fraud, 2 counts of conspiracy to commit wire fraud, conspiracy to commit securities fraud, conspiracy to commit commodities fraud, conspiracy to commit money laundering. Bankman-Fried was arrested in December 2022, convicted by jury in November 2023, and sentenced in March 2024 to 25 years in federal prison. He was ordered to forfeit $11 billion. In June 2026, a 3-judge panel at the Manhattan Federal Appeals Court upheld both the conviction and the sentence, calling Bankman-Fried the main driver of one of the largest frauds on record. The fraud mechanism was deliberate, but the structural lesson inside the FTX collapse is separate from the intent. A $32 billion company was running without an independent board, without a functioning audit process, and without any external verification that the assets it claimed to hold actually existed. Investors, customers, and institutional partners all assumed that scale implied oversight. It did not. Scale implied that the fraud, when it unraveled, would be large enough to make international news for 2 years. Gerald Cotten did not steal dramatically. He stole slowly, in ways that looked like ordinary exchange operations until the moment he was no longer alive to maintain the performance. Cotton was the co-founder and CEO of Quadriga CX, which was for most of the 2010s the largest cryptocurrency exchange in Canada. By late 2018, Quadriga CX had approximately 115,000 customers and was holding what those customers believed to be around $250 million in assets. On December 9, 2018, Cotton died in Jaipur, India. He was 30 years old. Officially, he died from complications of Crohn's disease while on his honeymoon. He left no accessible record of the passwords or private keys required to access the exchange's cold storage wallets, the offline systems where customer funds were held. $190 million in customer assets were locked in wallets that no one could open. When investigators from the Ontario Securities Commission gained access to Quadriga's back-end systems, they found something significantly worse than a locked safe. The exchange had been operating as a Ponzi scheme for years. Cotton had opened accounts on his own platform under fake names, aliases he controlled, and credited those accounts with fictitious crypto balances. He then traded against his own real customers using money that did not exist. When real customers won those trades, he paid out their winnings using other customers' real deposits. He directly transferred approximately $24 million to personal accounts and to real estate purchases. He lost an additional $28 million trading customer funds without authorization on outside exchanges. Approximately $115 million of the total shortfall came from fictitious trading on the platform itself. Total customer shortfall documented by investigators, $169 million. Total claims filed by customers, $303 million. Total amount recovered and distributed to creditors, $39.5 million, roughly 13 cents on the dollar. The Ontario Securities Commission formally concluded in June 2020 that Quadriga CX was a fraud and that Gerald Cotton had operated a Ponzi scheme. Some of Cotton's creditors publicly raised questions about the authenticity of his death certificate. The body was never independently examined. Viferi, whether formal RCMP exhumation was ever pursued or completed. There is no conviction. There is no prison sentence. There is no forfeiture order against a living person. The fraud, if it ended with Cotton's death, ended completely. The failure mode here is categorically different from FTX. FTX was aggressive external fraud, steal from customers to fund something else. Quadriga CX was internal structural fraud. The exchange itself was the fiction. And the single enabler of that fiction was the absence of any verification mechanism. No third-party audit of the order book. No external confirmation that the cold wallets held what they were reported to hold. No multi-signature custody requiring a second key holder to confirm any fund movement. Just one man, his aliases, and his passwords. 4 rules derived from these failures and from the $4.3 billion settlement Binance paid in 2023 for its own compliance failures. 1. Never commingle customer funds with company operating funds, not temporarily, not as a bridge loan, not with the intention to repay it next week. The moment customer deposits are used for anything other than returning them to customers on demand, you are committing the same act Sam Bankman-Fried was convicted of, regardless of your intentions. 2. Proof of reserves, published monthly, verified by an independent third party who does not work for you. The auditor signs a report. You publish the report regardless of what it says. Any exchange that resists this process is communicating something about what the report would find. The absence of verification is itself data. 3. Multi-signature cold storage with key custody distributed across multiple individuals and geographies. No single person, not the founder, not the CEO, not the head of security, controls unilateral access to customer funds. A 2 of 3 or 3 of 5 signature requirement for any cold wallet movement means that no single death, resignation, or coercion can lock or drain customer assets. 4. AML and KYC infrastructure before you need it, not after. The $4.3 billion Binance paid was not punishment for operating a large exchange. It was the price of building a global exchange from 2017 through 2022, while systematically declining to implement the controls that would have reduced its appeal to users in sanctioned countries. Regulators eventually investigate. When they investigate an exchange that has been operating for years, they look at years of transactions. The infrastructure you skip at year 1 is the violation they cite at year 5. The single biggest existential threat to your exchange business is not a hack, not a market crash, and not a competitor with lower fees. It is a government decision made in a room you were not in, by people who may not understand your product, affecting your entire customer base in a jurisdiction you built your growth on. In September 2021, China declared all cryptocurrency transactions and crypto-related business activities illegal. The announcement affected approximately 18% of global trading volume at the time. Verify. Exact percentage exchanges with substantial Chinese user bases, including significant operations connected to Huobi and OKX, lost access to that market within weeks. Huobi eventually rebranded, relocated, and sold its Chinese business. The adjustment was existential scale. Years of user acquisition, localization, marketing, and customer relationships ended with a regulatory announcement. This is the structural fragility embedded in every crypto exchange at every tier. Unlike a traditional brokerage, your operating licenses are issued at the discretion of regulators, who are themselves navigating rapidly evolving policy frameworks. The U.S. regulatory environment has become materially more permissive since 2025, with the SEC dropping several high-profile enforcement actions, and Congress advancing legislation that provides clearer operating frameworks. But permissive today does not mean permanent. The same political dynamics that open the door can close it. The global crypto exchange market is projected at approximately $85.3 billion in revenue in 2026, growing at a compound annual rate of 14% to 20% through 2033. The market is real, the growth trajectory is real, and the opportunity is real. The risk is that every dollar of that market exists inside a regulatory framework that has not yet settled into something stable. And your ability to access it depends on licenses that are issued, renewed, and revoked by humans operating under instructions that change with elections. Time to pull it all together and answer the actual question: how much money do you actually make if you do this right? Scenario 1. You spend $1.5 million in total to get a mid-tier international license, build on a white label platform, and launch with a focused niche: derivatives for retail traders in Southeast Asia and the Gulf. 18 months in, you're processing $5 million per day in trading volume. At a blended fee of 0.2%, that's $10,000 per day, $3.65 million per year gross. Annual costs: 12 employees, legal and compliance infrastructure, KYC services, marketing, $1.15 million per year. Return on your $1.5 million investment, 77% annually. Payback period, 16 months. The constraint: the majority of newly launched crypto exchanges do not reach $1 million in daily volume within their first year. You are building a toll highway in a market that already has established highways with better road surfaces, lower tolls, and brand recognition you cannot replicate. User acquisition in this market is expensive. Liquidity bootstrapping, making your order books deep enough that serious traders don't get slippage, requires either proprietary market making or paying external market makers, a cost that eats significantly into margins at low volume. The math works if you hit the volume number. Most operators don't hit the volume number. Scenario 2. You spend $4 million over 2 years getting full US licensing, building a real compliance team, and developing a custom institutional-grade platform with professional APIs and custody infrastructure. Your target market: proprietary trading firms, smaller hedge funds, and high-frequency retail traders who want regulatory certainty and deep liquidity in specific markets. 3 years from first dollar invested, you are processing $75 million per day in trading volume across spot and derivatives. At a blended fee of 0.15%, that's $112,500 per day, $41 million per year gross. Operating costs: 30 full-time staff, legal, compliance, infrastructure, insurance, custody partnerships. Run $12 million per year. Net income: $29 million annually. Return on $4 million initial investment, 725% on an annual basis at that volume. Payback on the full investment from inception, approximately 3 years. The difference between these two scenarios is not the math. Both scenarios produce real returns if the volume materializes. The difference is survivability. Scenario 2 can survive a regulator walking through the door. Scenario 2 can survive a CoinDesk investigation into your operations. Scenario 2 can survive a correspondent bank asking for a 3-year transaction history. Scenario 1 survives none of those events. Scenario 1 requires that no one with authority ever looks closely. That is not a business model. That is a bet on continued invisibility in an industry where the two most famous recent examples of continued invisibility were Gerald Cotton and Sam Bankman-Fried. The paradox you started with is still intact. It is a digital toll booth on a trillion-dollar highway. The fee math is real. The market growth is real. The margins at scale are genuinely extraordinary. What's also real, two of the largest exchange operators in recent memory ended in federal prison and in a foreign cemetery, respectively, and the world's largest exchange by volume paid the biggest corporate fine in financial history and kept operating. Whether that record is a warning or a set of correctable mistakes depends on which part of it you're willing to learn from. If you're the kind of person who finds that ambiguity interesting rather than disqualifying, subscribe. This channel is for you.